Hello, Canada. Welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Well, I guess some people have a king in Canada. There were a few of them. Actually, I was surprised at how few people turned out, which was a good sign. It was a really good sign. There wasn't the whole, 2-mile carriage ride that normally happened when the Queen would come down decades ago. And polled there's been a few polls where like 55-60% of Canadians want to like completely cut ties, but nobody's really bringing up these old polls today. Carney just trying to use more gaslighting in order to push his green agenda and try to hide all of the, just lies of the campaign. You have been gaslit, you have been lied to, you have been cheated. Let's just dive right into this hocus pocus. Now, I actually didn't watch this live. I'm going to watch this right now. I figured in my life, there are so many more things that are just more important than somebody else's king. Because I don't have a king. Nobody I know believes we should, have a king. In fact, nobody I know even thinks the king's worth anything. So I spent my day on something much more worthwhile. I actually caught a couple hours of sleep because I've been up for 30 some hours learning this software for my new merch. And I figured, I better get up. And right when I got up, lo and behold, the king was starting his speech. So I figured, important issues. I have important things to do. I went out and I shoveled some pig manure. And I fed the chickens. And I did a little gardening. And I did a little pitter-pattering to get the mower ready. Grass has got to get cut. Much more important things than somebody else's king. But I digress. Let's hear this gaslighting. My phone's been going off all day. I've been just kind of trying to avoid it because, every time I kind of look at it, I see, oh my God, what a joke. Can't believe this is happening in Canada. We're gone. Lots of stuff like that. Without further ado, here's somebody's king.
Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, it is with a deep sense of pride and pleasure that my wife and I join you here today as we witness Canadians coming together in a renewed sense of national pride, unity and hope. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people.
Right off the hop, are you hearing the lies? Unity. Oh my God, unity. Really? Are you... this guy has no idea the damage he just did with that opening statement. No wonder my phone has not stopped. What a joke. And you're on whose land? Whose land? Are they getting payment for you saying that? Is there a copyright? Once again, being gaslit? Okay, I'm sorry. I had to interrupt. I'll just let this play out. My God, this is just absolutely... if he started off like that, you can guarantee everything he's about to say has less quality than the manure I was shoveling this morning.
This land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared history as a nation, while continuing to deepen my own understanding. It is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as a country, a path is found toward truth and reconciliation in both word and deed. This is my 20th visit to Canada, spread over the course of more than half a century, and my first as sovereign. As I've said before, every time I come to Canada, a little more of Canada seeps into my bloodstream, and from there straight to my heart. I've always had the greatest admiration for Canada's unique identity, which is recognized across the world for bravery and sacrifice in defense of national values and for the diversity and kindness of Canadians. To the First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, you have welcomed my family and myself to your traditional lands with great warmth and hospitality, for which I am humbly grateful. This year, we mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day and VJ Day. On Juno Beach, at Dieppe, on the Somme, at Beaumont-Hamel, at Ypres, and on Vimy Ridge. At those places and many others, forever etched into our memories, Canadians fought and died alongside our closest allies. Aujourd'hui, je vois des élus venant d'un bout à l'autre du Canada, de Saint-Jean's à Terre-Neuve et Labrador, de Victoria en Colombie-Britannique et d'Arviat au Nunavut. Je vois des gardiens des droits et libertés garantis par la Charte canadienne. En tant que roi, je tiens à vous remercier de vous mettre au service de vos compatriotes, d'un bout ou l'autre de ce grand et beau pays. You speak for your communities, representing an incredible richness of cultures, languages, and perspectives. We owe it to this generation and those who succeed us to think and act for the greater good of all. While the world faces unprecedented challenges, generating uncertainties across the continents with regards to peace and stability, economics and climate change, your communities have the skills and determination to bring a wealth of solutions. En encourageant la collaboration et en tenant des débats respectueux et constructifs, vous permettrez à ce gouvernement d'agir de façon audacieuse et juste pour le bien des Canadiens et des Canadiennes. It has been nearly 70 years since the Sovereign first opened Parliament. In the time since, Canada has dramatically changed, repatriating its constitution, achieving full independence, and witnessing immense growth. Canada has embraced its British, French, and Indigenous roots and become a bold, ambitious, innovative country that is bilingual, truly multicultural, and committed to reconciliation. The Crown has for so long been a symbol of unity for Canada. It also represents stability and continuity from the past to the present. As it should, it stands proudly as a symbol of Canada today in all her richness and dynamism. When my dear late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, opened a new Canadian Parliament in 1957, the Second World War remained a fresh, painful memory. The Cold War was intensifying. Freedom and democracy were under threat. Canada was emerging as a growing economic power and a force for peace in the world. In the decades since, history has been punctuated by epoch-making events: the Vietnam War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the start of the War on Terror. Today, Canada faces another critical moment. Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination, and freedom are values which Canadians hold dear, and ones which the government is determined to protect. The system of open global trade that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for Canadians for decades, is changing. Canada's relationships with partners are also changing. Il nous faut confronter la réalité. Depuis la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, notre monde n'a jamais été aussi dangereux et instable. Le Canada fait face à des défis qui, dans nos vies, sont sans précédent. Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity, an opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War. A confident Canada, which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones, can seize this opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians. The Prime Minister and the President of the United States, for example, have begun defining a new economic and security relationship between Canada and the United States, rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests, to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. Simultanément, le gouvernement œuvre à renforcer ses relations avec des partenaires commerciaux et des alliés fiables. Sachant que le Canada possède ce dont notre monde a besoin et défend les valeurs que ce monde respecte. Le Canada est prêt à bâtir une coalition de nations qui partagent ces valeurs, qui croient en la coopération internationale et le libre-échange de biens, de services et d'idées. Dans ce monde nouveau, qui évolue à un rythme frénétique, le Canada tracera la voie à suivre. La démonstration en sera faite dès juin, quand le Canada présidera le sommet du G7. The government is guided by its conviction that the economy is only truly strong when it serves everyone. Many Canadians are struggling to get ahead. The government is responding, reducing middle-class taxes and saving two-income families up to $840 a year. It will cut the GST on homes at or under $1 million for first-time home buyers, delivering savings of up to $50,000.
Oh my God. Pittance. Hey, you guys can have your cake while they eat escargot. That's what he just said. He's repeating Carney's verbal diarrhea. Unbelievable. Wow.
And it will lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million. Le gouvernement assurera la pérennité de programmes qui permettent déjà aux familles d'économiser des milliers de dollars par année, notamment ceux pour les garderies et l'assurance médicaments. À ces progrès s'ajoute l'élargissement du régime canadien de soins dentaires, qui sera bientôt accessible à environ 8 millions de Canadiens et de Canadiennes, leur permettant d'économiser plus de 800 dollars par année en moyenne. The government's overarching goal, its core mission, is to build the strongest economy in the G7. That starts with creating one Canadian economy out of 13. Internal barriers to trade and labour mobility cost Canada as much as $200 billion each year. The government will introduce legislation to remove all remaining federal barriers to internal trade and labour mobility by Canada Day. Les premiers ministres de plusieurs provinces et territoires ont déjà pris des mesures pour éliminer les obstacles au commerce intérieur. Le gouvernement va s'appuyer sur ces progrès pour créer, d'ici la fête du Canada, un réel système de libre-échange à travers le pays. Il s'agit d'efforts essentiels pour permettre au Canada de réaliser tout son potentiel économique, mais cela reste insuffisant. To build Canada strong, the government is working closely with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples to identify and catalyse projects of national significance. Projects that will connect Canada, that will deepen Canada's ties with the world, and that will create high-paying jobs for generations. Given the pace of change and the scale of opportunities, speed is of the essence. Through the creation of a new major federal project office, the time needed to approve a project will be reduced from 5 years to 2, all while upholding Canada's world-leading environmental standards and its constitutional obligations to Indigenous peoples. The government will also strike cooperation agreements with every interested province and territory within 6 months to realise its goal of one project, one review. When Canadians come together, Canada builds things that last. Éliminer ces obstacles qui freinent l'économie canadienne permettra l'avènement d'une nouvelle ère de croissance grâce à laquelle le Canada va non seulement surmonter des guerres commerciales, mais en émerger plus fort que jamais. Cela lui permettra de devenir une superpuissance en matière d'énergie verte et conventionnelle, de bâtir une stratégie industrielle qui rendra le Canada plus compétitif à l'international, tout en luttant contre les changements climatiques, de bâtir des centaines de milliers de bonnes carrières dans les métiers spécialisés, et donc de faire du Canada une plaque tournante pour la science et l'innovation. Critically, the government will undertake a series of measures to help double the rate of home building while creating an entirely new housing industry, using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber. The government will introduce measures to deliver affordable homes by creating Build Canada Homes. This mission-driven organization will act to accelerate the development of new affordable housing. It will invest in the growth of the prefabricated and modular housing industry, and it will provide significant financing to affordable home builders. The government will make the housing market work better, including by cutting municipal development charges in half for all multi-unit housing. The government will drive supply up to bring housing costs down. To be truly strong, Canada must be secure. To that end, the government will introduce legislation to enhance security at Canada's borders. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies will have new tools to stop the flow of fentanyl and its precursors. The Canada Border Services Agency will be given new powers to examine goods destined for export to prevent the transport of illegal and stolen products, including cars. Le gouvernement protégera la souveraineté du Canada en rebâtissant, réarmant et réinvestissant dans les forces armées canadiennes. Il stimulera l'industrie militaire canadienne en prenant part au plan Réarm Europe et contribuera ainsi avec des partenaires européens à la sécurité transatlantique. Et il investira pour renforcer sa présence dans le Nord, alors que cette région, qui est partie intégrante de la nation canadienne, fait face à de nouvelles menaces. The government will discharge its duty to protect Canadians and their sovereign rights from wherever challenges may come at home or abroad. To keep communities safe, the government will hire 1,000 more RCMP personnel. It will change firearms licensing and strengthen enforcement of yellow and red flag laws. Weapons licenses for those convicted of intimate partner violence and those subject to protection orders will be revoked. Through the deployment of scanners, drones, and helicopters, additional personnel, and canine teams, the government will stem the tide of illegal guns and drugs across the border. It will take these steps while protecting the rights of law-abiding gun owners and Indigenous peoples' long-standing hunting traditions.
Good bullshit!
The government will bring a renewed focus on car theft and home invasions by toughening the criminal code to make bail harder to get for repeat offenders charged with committing these crimes, along with human trafficking and drug smuggling. During this time of great change, Canadians are uniting behind what makes Canada unique. La langue française et la culture québécoise sont au cœur de l'identité canadienne. Elles définissent le pays que les Canadiens, les Canadiennes et moi aimons tant. Le Canada est un pays où l'on respecte et célèbre les langues officielles et les langues autochtones. Le gouvernement est déterminé à protéger les institutions qui font rayonner ces cultures et cette identité dans le monde entier, comme CBC Radio-Canada. Protéger ce qui nous donne accès à des aliments frais, sains et de qualité, les producteurs agricoles. Et protéger la gestion de l'offre. Nature is core to Canada's identity. In 2022, Canada convened COP15 in Montreal, which concluded with 196 countries striking a historic agreement to protect 30% of their lands and 30% of waters by 2030. To this end, the government will protect more of Canada's nature than ever before through the creation of new national parks, national urban parks, marine protected areas, and other conservation initiatives. The government will always protect the rights and freedoms that the Charter guarantees for every Canadian. The government will be a reliable partner to Indigenous peoples, upholding its fundamental commitment to advancing reconciliation. Central to this commitment is the creation of long-term wealth and prosperity with Indigenous peoples. For that reason, the government will double the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 billion to $10 billion, enabling more Indigenous communities to become owners of major projects. As Canada moves forward with nation-building projects, the government will always be firmly guided by the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. Canada's immigration system has long been a source of pride for Canadians and of dynamism for the economy. The government is dedicated to rebuilding the trust of Canadians in immigration by restoring balance to the system. Le gouvernement instaurera une limite sur le nombre de travailleurs étrangers temporaires et d'étudiants internationaux, établissant un plafond qui, à partir de 2027, sera en deçà de 5% de la population canadienne. Simultanément, il attirera les meilleurs talents dans le monde pour bâtir l'économie. Et il fera savoir aux Canadiens et aux Canadiennes qui travaillent à l'étranger que s'ils songent à revenir au pays, il n'y a pas de moment plus propice pour le faire. Dans toutes ces actions, le gouvernement sera guidé par une nouvelle discipline fiscale. Dépenser moins pour que les Canadiens puissent investir plus. Day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year. The government will introduce measures to bring it below 2%. Transfers to provinces, territories, or individuals will be maintained. The government will balance its operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, capping the public service, ending duplication, and deploying technology to improve public sector productivity.
We have heard all of this already the last 10 years. Nothing's changed. The West wants out.
In parallel, the government will take a series of measures to catalyze new investment, to create better jobs and higher incomes for Canadians. The scale of the government's initiative will match the challenges of our times and the ambitions of Canadians. Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, when my dear late mother addressed your predecessors 7 decades ago, she said that in that age and against the backdrop of international affairs, no nation could live unto itself. It is a source of great pride that in the following decades, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values as a force for good. À vous et à l'ensemble du peuple canadien, mon épouse et moi-même adressons nos sincères remerciements pour cet accueil des plus chaleureux. As the anthem reminds us, the true North is indeed strong and free. Members of the House of Commons, you will be asked to appropriate the funds to carry out the services and expenditures authorised by Parliament. May you honour the profound trust bestowed upon you by Canadians. And may God bless and guide you in all your duties.
Oh, right. So he pretty much just laid it out like a king. You will pay for everything this government is going to do, and you will take it, and you will do it because we said so. Yeah. Unbelievable. What an embarrassment that whole speech was. Oh, my Lord. Yeah. Well, that was an embarrassment. Now, moving right along, let's take a listen to what Polyev had to say.
Thank you very much, everyone. And before I begin, let me thank my Deputy Leader, Melissa Lanceman. We join today in thanking His Majesty for coming to Canada and delivering the throne speech, reinforcing our ancient British liberties, a parliamentary system that goes back 800 years, a system that has served Canada well and has been the foundation of what I love to call the Canadian promise, that anyone who works hard gets a great life in a nice, affordable house on a safe street. That's the promise that we as Conservatives ran to restore, and it's why we were able to get 2 million more votes and 24 more seats. We inspired a lot of people that we would fight for that Canadian promise and bring forward that hope. And we were looking for that promise and that hope in this speech today. We did see a lot of the right slogans and political talking points, but no clear plans to get it done. One slogan dealt with controlling government spending, but there were no specific savings to roll back the morbidly obese Liberal government's costs. We saw promises about getting things built, but no mention of oil and gas or pipelines. Pipelines are, of course, the thing we most need to build. Didn't get one mention. Nor did they mention getting rid of the anti-energy laws that have kept our resources in the ground. C-69, the no development law. C-48, the shipping ban. The energy cap. The electric vehicle mandate. All of these things were left out of the speech altogether. No specific plans to get anything done, even though, as the Prime Minister has said, we are in a crisis to break our dependence on the American economy. They mentioned crime, but refused to say that they would repeal the Liberal catch and release bail law, C-75, or the house arrest law, laws that have allowed rampant chaos and crime to overtake our once tranquil streets. No mention of overcoming the opioid crisis and replacing tax-funded drugs and legalization with treatment and recovery. No mention of real plans to get taxes under control by reducing the cost of government. So we're here to turn the government's talking points into real plans. We pledge to work with the government to repeal the anti-energy law, C-69, repeal the energy cap, the electric vehicle mandate, the offshore shipping ban. Let's get our pipelines building. Let's get our goods to markets other than the United States. We're here to propose cuts to bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, and corporate welfare so that we can bring down taxes, debt, and inflation. Let's repeal the catch and release laws so that we can restore safety to our streets. Let's invest in treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free. In other words, let's replace the talking points with real plans to get it done. That is what Conservatives pledged to do. That is what Canadians voted for us to fight for, and that is what we will deliver. Thank you very much.
So will you support the speech from the throne if there's stuff you can support in it?
There are some messages we want to see is plans. So we're going to put forward what we consider to be a constructive amendment that will add very specific plans. So for example, the government says they want to get projects built. Great. We've got just the plan to do it. Repeal C-69, the anti-development law. Repeal the energy cap, the offshore shipping ban, the electric vehicle mandate, and unlock the incredible investment that could bring jobs and self-sufficiency to Canada. They say they want to reverse course on crime. Well, we've got the plan for that too. We will put forward an amendment that says that they should repeal C-75, the catch and release bail law.
That's got to
They
go
say
that
they
law.
want to get their spending back kind of hilariously under control after decades of overspending. Well, we've got plans for that too. So our amendment will put real plans in place rather than slogans and talking points.
The NDP says this speech could have essentially been written by a Conservative government. Do you agree?
Yeah, right.
Well, I would have written a different speech. So the speech that I would have written would have said the things that I've just said now.
The speech sounds like what the old Liberal Party was like. Not conservative by any means. And it's with this whole new Liberal Party as if any of that is going to come true. What a load of horse pucky. Let him have it. Come on, Pierre.
Est-ce que vous pouvez nous dire où vous en êtes avec la démission de votre député Quebec pour vous?
Oh, let's skip ahead here.
Ask that question in a different way. Can we just to pick up, a lot of this, having the king, whatever, was meant to assert something about Canada to the world. Did you take that away from the speech? And what do you think the impact of all that messaging is on how people perceive us, including but not limited to Donald Trump?
You know, it's been a centuries-old debate between Canada's primary relationship with the Crown and with our closest neighbour. We saw that as far back as John A. Macdonald. We saw it again in the free trade debate. I think it is important to reinforce the British traditions of our parliamentary democracy and to reassert that we have a centuries-old friendship with the United Kingdom. Those traditions survive today. The place behind me right now is following many of the same rules that were scribbled on parchment hundreds of years ago in Britain. And all, of course, this was the result of the great Magna Carta, an 800-year-old tradition that basically created liberty under the law. So I think it's important that the world recognize that we have those ancient traditions, and that the Americans recognize that we are an independent and free country that will make its own decisions. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah. Well, speechless. A complete waste of time. All smoke and mirrors. Nothing has changed. Nothing will change under this government. They're all the same. And you've just been gaslit to the extreme. Let's just hope this party falls sooner than later. can't say I hope you enjoyed the episode because other than the last little 8 minutes there with Pierre Poilievre, that was a whole lot of verbal diarrhea. Give them cake. Yeah. Well, guys, check out my merch shop. Check out the new memberships. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you have. Punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Until the next time, I'm Alias the Guy. You've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. Stay informed.